I think we're live. Hi. I never quite know if we're live or not. I'll get the hang of it at some point. Wait. 3, 4, 5. Okay. We were live. There's a little bit of a delay between the streaming software and YouTube. So anyway, we're live. Hi. And this video I wanted to post as a follow-up to the other one where I asked for advice. And let me put this down so you don't have to see the fan. Maybe I can go shorter. Nope, that's as low as the stool will go. What? Hey, is my stool broken? The stool finally broke, I guess. What's going on? Anyway, so if you were tuning in before, you know that my son is supposed to go to Penn State to play baseball in Monaca, Pennsylvania, at one of the smaller Penn State campuses. They've got 20. And being that he was homeschooled, we felt that was a good campus for him, and they scouted him for baseball, and so, yay. But we had the quandary of going to that campus because Shell has just opened a plastic cracking plant, and they've already been fined. This is what I've learned, okay? They're polluting the area really, really badly. And there are there's a federal lawsuit that's been started by these environmental companies, environmental groups. And Shell has already been fined like $10 million that they're putting into the community. Like, they made $93 billion in the first quarter. $10 million, that's insulting. And basically, they're just going to keep paying fines to keep their plant open. And they're going to keep polluting people. So the interesting thing about it is that Penn State hasn't mentioned any of this information to us. They haven't said, hey, just so you know, there's this Shell plant that has opened, and, you should know before you enroll your child. Of course, Penn State is also a $1 billion a year corporation. So why would they do that? They could just move the campus, just move it somewhere else. I'm sure there's a place where there's an office building, an apartment building, so they've got dorms, they've got classrooms, and somewhere near a baseball field possibly, so that they can have the different sports teams that they have. Do something. Don't just act like it's not happening, because it is, and it's a big, big problem. So I actually found this guy. His name is like somebody Ruffalo. It's not the actor, but it's the same name, I think. Someone Ruffalo on Instagram or YouTube actually was driving by and stopped because he saw the flares. In those refineries, they've got those big concrete things where they gas off the steam, the flames. It was so hot that the bottom of that thing was red hot, and they were squirting it with fire hoses, and it was still red. It was melting. It was melting, and it's right on the Ohio River. If there is an accident there, it is going to mess that region up so bad. And the East Palestine train explosion was, and fire that they set on purpose, that's only 30 miles away from the same area, directly upstream and upwind. So all the toxins just blow right onto this campus, this town called Beaver, Pennsylvania, and Monaca, Pennsylvania. It's awful. So that's why we were trying to consider whether or not he should go there and what he can do, because he gets to play baseball there. But if he goes to another campus, he can go to another campus, no problem, but he'll have to try out for the team instead of having a sure spot. So that's no big deal. He's amazing. I'm sure he'll make the team. But so what he figured out, we were trying to figure out what to do about the trust, because he would have the trust and it'll only pay for a fraction of Penn State, and then he'll be saddled with all this debt. Should he do that, or should he just go somewhere cheaper. Well, he wants to play baseball. He wants the college experience, and he could do that here at Reno, but he's kind of got his mindset on that, and it's just money anyway, right? I mean, who doesn't have student loans, right? It's a But what he figured out is, why not just, since I'm going to be saddled with student loans anyway, just keep the trust and invest it and let it sit and invest, instead of using it and blowing it on a year of tuition and room and board and food and all that it pays for when you're living on campus. Keep it, reinvest it in an IRA, because it's not really it's in a what is it, a 529, I think, is educational trust. So he'll lose a little bit if he flips it over into an IRA or other investments, but then he'll make more. So it can just sit there, because otherwise he blows it on the first year, still has a bunch of student loan debt, and then has nothing to show for it, because you can't really work full time and earn a lot of money while you're in college. This way, he'll still have the student loan debt, whatever, but he'll have a bunch of money sitting there waiting for him, so he can invest it, buy a house, or whatever. So I actually thought that was pretty clever to accomplish both things at once. Keep that investment there so that you have a more solid credit, a more solid portfolio, instead of just like, hey, all I've got to show for this is a degree and a lot of debt. Now you've got a degree, student loan debts, which people don't care about. As long as you're paying them off, it doesn't prevent you from getting a mortgage and other things. So, and then he'll have some money sitting there in investments, which will put him in a stronger position fresh out of school. So that's what he's looking at doing at this point. We made some calls and found out that he can do that, and he's researching that actual 529 college trust at this point to just see what is the best way to go. And he actually did say that it's from the grandparents, had the grandparents invested it in the IRA back then instead of doing the student loan, there would be no penalty for taking it out and buying a house like there is. You can flip it over into a Roth IRA with no penalty, but if you if you take it out for anything else, then you're penalized. So I found that pretty interesting. I'm sure you can hear my dogs walking around, clicking their nails on the floor, and Joey's squeaky chair there. Are you doing your jip? No? So what else? So that's the shell. Your chair's really squeaky. The shell cracker plant is horrible. It's a big deal. Like I said, they made $93 billion in the first quarter, but they were only fined $10 million. So they're just going to pay to pollute. That's what it comes down to. And it's plastic. Where is Greta What's-Her-Name and all these plastic protesters? This is a big deal. So that's fairly disappointing. Okay, so on to the other thing I wanted to talk about. When I was a baby, I'm going to tell you about asthma and inhalers. When I was a baby, I was very quickly diagnosed with asthma when I was about 6 months old. I was in and out of the hospital. When I was a toddler, I lived in a hospital in an oxygen tent for what seemed like forever. I remember that time. I was very little, but that's kind of stuff you don't forget. And I've since, in my adulthood, been diagnosed with medical trauma, PTSD. I've been in the emergency room so many times and transported by ambulance, and I've even been in ICU, intubated, the whole thing. It was really horrible. It was a deadly asthma attack. I've had a few of those, and it's awful. When I moved out to Los Angeles, I met someone who planted a seed in my mind and said that I should take that inhaler, and by this time I had an EpiPen to stab myself in the leg because of the ICU experience. So take that inhaler and throw it off a cliff. Now I know that's polluting and littering, but you know what I mean. So I thought he was crazy. I'm like, you don't know what it's like. But he said, throw that thing, and a lot of people with asthma, they think they don't have the right to breathe the air or something like this. And it resonated with me on a level. It grew in my mind. And one day I was walking to my condo apartment down this long corridor, and coming towards me was this little old lady that lived next door to me somewhere, and this little tiny old lady and her nurse, and she's pushing her oxygen cart, and she's got the whole thing. And as she passed me, I said, "That will not be me." And it was like the Green Mile. And this like demon came out of me. It was like the weirdest thing. It was like, and it wasn't just normal at all. It wasn't really black flies, but it was that same kind of, there was some other weird spirit, like I had just condemned a demon out of me or something. So after that, I quit my inhaler. I called a friend of mine who was this amazing massage therapist, and he came over and worked on me for like 2 hours. And for a couple of days, I had a high fever. I was in a lot of pain because I'm detoxing from these meds that I had always been taking. I guess that's the reason why. And man, it was quite a journey, because I liked to go hiking, but I was afraid to hike without an inhaler. So I took my EpiPen, and it was a challenge, and I would feel myself getting tight, and I would say, I've got the right to breathe the air. There's enough air for everyone. And after a while, I got over it. So I went for many, many years with no inhaler, but I had that EpiPen. So I did realize that there was a large psychological component to it. There was a large stress component to it. I, somewhere in my subconscious, got it in my mind to hold my breath when I'm around other people, certain situations, to just kind of shrink and not take up the space, because I was ridiculed for being kind of having a big personality or being flamboyant. And this was across the board, by schoolmates, by my family, I was told basically that I was not okay, that my personality was unacceptable. And you can see maybe I'm a little bit different. I am expressive, and people would point this out to me, and that it wasn't okay. It made them feel a certain way. And before this, I was not aware that I was any different from anyone else. Now, like I said, asthma goes back to my infancy. So I don't know how much psychology was involved at the time. Who knows? You know, when you're a baby, you're very keen to energy. So I don't know if I was trying to hold my breath because I wasn't truly accepted, or what it is. I have no idea. But later in life, I learned that I was actually holding my breath, which would then give me the feeling of struggling for air. So I got rid of that inhaler. I would just carry the EpiPen, and I quit needing the inhaler. So somehow, years and years later, that inhaler vibe started creeping back into my life. I don't really know why, but things that maybe could have been handled by a Zyrtec, I started using an inhaler for, and so then I got back in the habit of using an inhaler. So now I'm back in the process. I've kicked out the inhaler because it's been a couple of years now that I have carried an inhaler, and I found myself using it all the time. And it's very uncomfortable to feel like you can't breathe, but I'm like, man, this is a cycle, a vicious cycle. So I quit using it. I ran out, and that's a scary feeling when you can't breathe. But I have the EpiPen, and the interesting thing about having the EpiPen is I've never had to use it. Just knowing it's there, I might suffer from an asthma attack and it's scary and uncomfortable, but I know it's there. So I've done a little bit of research and watched Dr. Burke, I think his name is, and he had some interesting insights. I try to watch the way I'm breathing. I'm not sure if I'm low in oxygen or low in CO2. There's a couple of different ways that you can start feeling like you can't breathe. So breathe with your mouth closed, because some people, they breathe too much. Asthmatics breathe too much, they get too much oxygen, and then it actually shuts their lungs down and their ability to breathe. They don't have enough CO2. So breathing with the mouth closed, slowing the breath, relaxing the shoulders, all of that. But then on the flip side, there's some kinds of feelings of shortness of breath when you really just don't have enough oxygen. So I haven't quite figured out which one it is. But what was happening is, like, every night I'd get ready to go to bed, and as soon as I laid down, it would trigger an asthma attack. Like, just the tightness, the wheezing, and it was just so awful and really inconvenient. You know, at bedtime you just want to go to sleep. And sometimes it would just go away after a little while. Sometimes it's my sleep position. So I learned, like, last night, it occurred to me the night before that these supplements I take at night might have something to do with it. So last night I didn't take melatonin, I didn't take my magnesium, and I was real just careful not to run around the house and do a bunch of stuff right before bed. And I was just real slow and real calm and relaxed. And when I laid down, I laid on my side instead of on my back. And I didn't have any of the problems. So I'm starting to sort of decode it. A lot of it does have to do with stress. I still have been telling myself I have the right to breathe the air, because then it does make me relax and take a different posture. And that seems to help a little bit. Just the posture, opening the chest, relaxing the shoulders. And I have also found that breathing through my mouth does help. So maybe I am low on oxygen when I'm feeling like this and not low in CO2, because there is a difference, obviously. Those are two different things. So if you're out there and you have been using an inhaler, I'm curious to know if you've ever tried to stop using an inhaler and what happened. So that is one of the things that I've been dealing with. I think today was day 5 or 6 without having an inhaler in my purse, and certainly not using one since I ran out. But like I said, I do carry this EpiPen, and it's interesting because watch, I probably don't even have one anymore. Do I? Don't I? Where is it? Oh my God, I don't even know where it is. I think I have it. No. Oh yeah, here it is. Okay, so a few years ago, maybe 4 years ago, I told my doctor, I said, this thing is expired. I needed a prescription for another EpiPen. He's like, oh, well, they don't really lose that much potency. It's fine. I think that's malpractice, telling me to use expired meds. What if he's wrong? So honestly, I really don't even know how effective this thing would be anymore, but just having it in there gives me a little peace of mind. Like I said, the other one that I had, I never had to use. I've never had to use an EpiPen. And like I said also, I was intubated. I had a horrible, deadly asthma attack. It was an awful, awful experience. So that's something that I'm really exploring. If you have any insights or information or experiences of your own, by all means put them in the comments. I would love to hear from you. And I think the last thing I promised to do for my friend Wyatt, who said everybody likes cat videos. Where's my kitty? Kitty. Oh, there she is. Let's go get her. Look at her. Oh, stay here with me. She's a tortie. A tortie is like a calico, but that's mostly black instead of mostly white. And she's our girl. She's a little mad at me today because I ran out of cat food and forgot to get more, so I gave her dog food. Now, I don't know why she'd be mad about that, because she'll eat dog food anyway. She seems to love it. But she actually doesn't quite have a name either. She's about 4 years old, I think. And we had another cat that my son named Luna. She was also a tortie. She was mostly black but had some little white spots on her. And bye. Bye. Come here, buddy. Come up. You want to see Buddy? Here's Buddy. Can you see Buddy? Oh, hey, Buddy. Hi, Buddy. Hi, Buddy. You're a good boy. So this one didn't have a name, the cat. So her name is Other Kitty. Okay, Kitty. Come here, kitty, 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 kitty. Come here. Come here, kitty, 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 kitty. She's a cute girl. She's a good kitty. And she really likes to be outside. Come here. Come here. Shadow, come here. Come here, Shadow. You want to meet Shadow? Come here. Come here. Come. Come. Up. Hi. Give me hugs. This is Shadow. He is a Plot Hound Pyrenees mix. He's got a David Bowie eye. And he's a good boy. He's a big good boy. Aren't ya? You want down? You want down? You want to give me hugs? So we've got a little house full of animals. Buddy and Shadow have been trained for service, for mobility. They help me out. I haven't had them out in public a whole lot since we moved here, because I really don't go out in public a lot. And but I try to work them around where we live and take them out and keep them fresh on how to help me. But I'll show you what they do actually. And I don't know if you can see. I've got to take a nap in a little bit because I've got a very late ride to do. But here, if I was to call out, he comes in. Both of them will just come in and help me up, and then I can brace and stand up from them, and they'll also pull me along. So if I can't walk forward or I'm in a lot of pain, they just kind of drag me along behind them. And that's what they do for me. My back actually is broken. I have a spondylolisthesis grade 3 between my L5, S1. So it means that if this is my sacrum, which is your tailbone, and this is my L5, the sacrum actually, it looks like the spine slips forward, but it's actually the sacrum slips back, and it's like this. And I haven't had surgery, and I don't take pain meds. I just try to be careful. I'm very strong. I can lift heavy objects, and it's very bad for me. So I try to be very careful and don't do any of that stuff. And these doggos really help me a lot. It's been like that for many, many years. I've had fresh breaks also throughout the years. It used to be at a 2, and then it got pushed forward, and it's just, it is what it is. I was a very flexible dancer and gymnast. Do not don't be over flexible. You know, if you have a daughter, or most of the time it would probably be a daughter, a gymnast or a dancer, and she's very flexible and sway back, they love to exploit that in dance and gymnastics and bend you into a pretzel, and it was, you know, you're supposed to be flexible. I was too flexible, and you can really, really hurt yourself that way. And there's other ways people get this same condition. Skiers and snowboarders a lot of the times will have this condition from the constant impact of that sport. Other athletes, you can get it if you're hit in a car accident. It can do the same thing. So there's a lot of different ways that it can happen. But if you notice that someone's real sway back and very flexible, they really should be very careful with that, because I was very flexible, had a very sway back, and it made my butt look bubbly and big. And, you know, I was picked on for the way that I looked and the way that I walked, and I had no idea why or what was happening. My mom used to tell me I had a jut butt like a black girl, which now, you know, it's like, that's great, but I didn't know what it meant back then, and I didn't know that it was dangerous to have that sway back. And that is what that is. And my dogs, I know I wasn't going to show you that, but I can't just show you Other Kitty and not my puppies. So that's it. I just wanted to come on and tell you guys about the update a little bit. And hold on. Someone commented, "Hi, it's Gail Pet. Hi. Gail Pet has a cat. She's pretty. I have a cat named Luna. Can you see my chat? I sure can. I can sure see you. Are you still there? That's nice. Yes, Luna, the other tortie that Gail Pet has. So that is the end of the chat. I'm going to go lay down on the couch for a little while because I have clients flying in that I'm driving up to South Lake Tahoe, and their plane is delayed. Now they're getting in at 12:45, which means it'll be 20 minutes for them to get baggage. So at about 1 o'clock in the morning, I will be driving up to South Lake Tahoe. So I need to lay down and take just a little relaxing nap, and then I'll have a nice cold brew. I've tried to stop drinking coffee, but half the month there's just no way for me to function without it. So I use the Arbonne Fizzies in the morning instead of going straight into coffee, because I learned that if you go straight into coffee, then you get that crash and burn in the middle of the day. But if you wait to have coffee for about an hour and a half while your sleep wears off, there's actually a term for it, and the brain chemistry that is involved. If you wait for that period, that hour and a half, 90-minute period to pass before you have your coffee, you don't have the midday crash and burn where you need another cup of coffee, and you don't get the headaches and the whole thing. So that's what I've been doing, and it's been working out just fine. So I do the Arbonne Fizzies first thing in the morning, and then coffee in the middle of the day for half the month. And then you can refer back to my other video on PMDD to understand why I drink coffee half the month. So thank you. I will be careful. I'm always a careful driver. And I've already been up to Tahoe once today to bring some clients back down. That was fun, a fun conversation. And I do record those conversations on the dash cam, but sometimes they're very inappropriate, the things that people will talk about it in the car. So, they just will talk about anything, say anything, and not inappropriate towards me, but just real talk that would probably be censored on YouTube for being not woke enough. So that's that. Check back and I'll give you some more updates as to what's going on. And I'm actually going to be following that Shell petrochemical situation. And, how is this happening still in our country? This is so 1950s. But have a good night, everybody, and I will talk to you later. How do I stop this?